There are so many women in this sport that inspire me, and I feel like no matter how I answer this, I'm gonna leave people out, and I don't mean to.
Ana Maria Popescu-Brânză,
Eva Lashray,
Aaron Smart, Emily Cross,
Ibtihaj Mohammed.
She has taken the time and the popularity that she's gained by being the first Muslim woman in a hijab to compete for the United States, and has taken the opportunity to really share the sport of fencing and not only bring fencing in the spotlight, but specifically women's saber.
Juji Wan, who is the Olympic gold medalist in foil.
I really like watching Kat Holmes. She has some fire that you can just see.
Lee Kiffer,
Natalie Mulholson.
But I'm most inspired by
I remember meeting her at the Arnold Fencing Classic, her signing my glove, telling me like, oh, it's okay to be nervous sometimes when you're at a fencing tournament. That still happens to me.
Maya Lauren. Monica Aksamet. Follow her on almost everything. It's nice to see that, you can get far and not be incredibly fancy.
Natalie Mulholson, she's Italian/Brazilian. I watch what she does for the sport and I admire her very much. When I was watching her win that world championship, it was 12-12. And then she got priority. I remember reading an article where she said, at that point, I knew I just had to go for it. It needed to be a moment where I wasn't thinking. Boom, she got it. I try to approach my fencing that way sometimes. It's not always that way. And I try to take that and embrace it with life too. Just kind of go for it.
Nzinga Prescott, she's cool.
Olga
Cullen. She is somebody who's technically, tactically, and physically is the whole package.
Rebecca Ward.
Seda Jacobson. I loved her style of fencing. It was technically beautiful and also really powerful, and the game face.
Sally Paczynski.
Sharon Mokuzai,
Shireen Shaw,
Sophia Velikaya,
Valentina Vetsali.
The parafencers, by far. They are so much fun. They are so welcoming. They're so engaging. All of them have such different stories about how they became parafencers. They're just a hoot and a half. I feel remarkably honored when I get to ref them. The wheelies just make the day fun, and you kind of forget that you're working.
The wheelchair fencers, Allison Yu, she's just overall a great person to learn from. She is from Hong Kong.
Bebe, an Italian parafencer. She is unbelievably fast. She fences with no arms and no legs. She has excellent point control, and she never gives up.
Wheelchair women fencers are the most supportive and outgoing people you will ever meet. What differs each of us from each other is our disability. We don't let our disabilities define us, even though we have specific accommodations we need for the sport.
You have the people who mentored me also along the way and were there when I needed them, like Lisa Sapery, Kelly Kaler, Kara Tagersell, Sue Belenik, Susan Borges.
Daniela Ilic from Serbia, who is an FA ref, national team member, and just one awesome badass woman.
She's going to hate me for saying this, but I'm inspired by Dawn Wilson.
Luke Delpy, who was my original fencing partner, coach, and yes, I still talk to her on the phone.
Brooklyn Miller. She started off not as, advanced as some of the other people on the team, but she consistently works really, really hard every single day. And that's inspired me to work harder.
I can think of 3 women off the top of my head who were strong mentors of mine as I was coming up as a young referee. Jerry Baumgart, Sharon Everson, and Mary Fry.
Gladys Eaton at Lawrence High School. Julia Jones. Being privileged to work with Dr. Nikki Frank has been the most valuable experience.
She molded me as a fencer. She has high expectations of you. It makes you realize that you can get there and she's behind you all the way, but you have to work.
I was on an athletic scholarship for rowing, and I lived with fencers. Nikki Frank knew how to work the system, so I'd listen to my fencing friends and hear what their coach was saying and then adapt it to our experience. So even though she wasn't my coach at the school, she was a leader and she was an inspiration for us.
Denise O'Connor, who was my college coach, who was also member of the 76 Olympic team with me, which was pretty phenomenal.
And then you go to an event and you see a head coach like Ariana Klinkoff or Daria Schneider.
Maya, of course, my coach.
In Croatia, there's my first coach, gave me about a shot.
Nat Goodhearts.
Glass Berardi. She was my coach, and she became my fencing mama.
I'm also inspired by my athletes who keep me going and keep me motivated.
Veterans, fencers in their 70s and their 80s, because I hope that when I'm that age, I will be able to be on a street fighting, fencing.
Connie Adam, and she's in her 90s now, but I first met her when I was a very novice fencer. All I could think of when I met this person was she was an old lady. That was to my detriment. She whooped my ass. My mistake was I did not respect her. We're great friends now. She's a complete inspiration. And taught me the fact you should always respect everybody.
All of my Welsh veteran female women colleagues, really, really dedicated to the sport, really wonderful people.
I've met so many women who picked this up as adults, not in high school, not in college. You know, after a certain age, you're really just supposed to, you know, wear a nice twin set and bake cookies. They decided, no, I'm gonna go out and do this. And they went out and did it.
My son was competing in the Capital Clash. I was sitting there watching him get ready. This woman sits next to me. She was talking to her children. She sets her bag down and I see it says Women's USA Vet World Team. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I looked at her and I said, are you on the world team? She says, oh yeah, I am. I said, I just started fencing less than a year ago, and this is really cool to meet someone who's kind of near my age and who's fencing on that level. And this was Cherie Zach. She said, oh, I just started fencing about 5 years ago. Blew my mind. You know, do you compete? And I said, no, not yet. I'm really kind of scared. I'm hesitant to do it. She goes, no, you got to do it. You just got to do it. So that really inspired me.
Badger Merritt, because she keeps going and really kind of encouraged me. She helped me get to my first competition, get brave enough to actually compete.
Anne-Marie Walters, my teammate, Jeanette Starks-Faulkner. She fences in the 60s category. I just look at her and say, I want to be like her. Not to mention the fact that she has been world champion. She's also tiny, like she's my size. I love that.
Jane Eyre. She's quietly setting her record straight. I mean, she's like 8-time veteran world champion.
Juliet Mcmaster, who is also Canadian. She's in her 80s now, but she used to organize outdoor tournaments in Banff in the 50s, which is, how awesome is that? I mean,
Kathy Walters and Liz Morey. They are currently two of the top armorers in the States and work internationally. They're highly respected in their fields, and I just really kind of want to grow up to be like them.
I'm a fan of Astrid Couillard because she's an engineer like me.
I'm most inspired by her because I have come along this journey to help keep up with her because she's got this insatiable desire to fence. And as a parent, you go, how do you feed that kind of passion? She encourages me, and we get out there, we play, and she helps train me. I'm obviously training in our club
We
as well.
coach each other. It's great.
Yeah.
The women who I have come to be friendly with through the Facebook Fencing Women's Group, through the Veterans Fencing Group, the Sunday night Zoom call that started happening last spring because people were missing their time together at the April NAC. Not all of these women were friends of mine, but I knew who they were, and now I feel like they're all friends of mine and everybody has a great story. The next time I see any single one of them at any event, I will stand and cheer.
I can't think of any woman who has come before me that doesn't inspire me in some way. We've come a long way for women in fencing, but we still have a long way to go. And all the women that came before me dealt with things that I didn't necessarily have to deal with, or I dealt with in a different way.
And I could go on, honestly, I could go on. There's so many.